goals for the first 3 days shouldn't be trying to figure out our plans. It's more of making students feel comfortable, welcoming them to the family, those kind of pieces. Still figuring it out. We're ready. Day one. One way or another, it's going to be ready. So I won't be able to see you while you're talking to me either then.
Hi there, and welcome to Ask Talon Live tonight. It's August 6th, 2020, and we are getting back into giving you the best information that we possibly can, the most up-to-date information we possibly can about how we're starting the 2020-2021 school year at Timber Creek High School. Thanks to all the people tuning in. I see about 20 people have already started watching us on the different streams, and we appreciate it. If you're on Twitch, you can chat with us just through the chat box below. If you're looking on Periscope or looking on Facebook or any one of the different streaming services you you might be watching on. If it has a chat feature, go ahead and ask any question that you like in our chat box, and we will try to get the answers to those questions live here between 7 and 9 p.m. tonight. My name is Greg Yonda. I'm the student media advisor and journalism teacher at Timber Creek High School, and we have a special guest tonight for our Ask Talon. Our principal of Timber Creek High School, Michelle Summerholder, is with us today. So if you can say hello real quick.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm going to boost your audio just a little bit. But we're very glad to have you with us tonight because we have a bunch of new information that we think parents, students need to know, and the whole Falcon family can really get a lot of information out of. The biggest news coming out actually happened on Monday night. The KISD School Board voted to move the start date of the 2020-2021 school year to August 26th. So what does that do for planning and putting things together at Timber Creek High School?
Well, first off, I want to say I'm so excited to get our Falcons back and flying back to the nest. I'm super excited about the 2021 school year. It's going to be awesome. So I'm really excited for our remote learners, for our in-person learners, and to really get our family back together after a long summer. So I'm really excited that that's going to be happening very soon. So those extra time, we're going to be able to do some PD with teachers, some extra classroom prep time, and some teacher prep time on curriculum. So that just gives us a little bit more time to work through all of our plans and processes. One of the fun things that we're going to do before students arrive on day one is to give some teachers your schedule. So we're going to allow them to walk the building and to be students and to sit in classrooms and see how the flow works and go to the lunchroom and grab their lunch and really just go through all the processes to ensure that on day one, our Falcons are safe and our Falcons are ready to go, and ensuring that all of our processes are set and ready to go before they even walk in the building. So lots of exciting things.
Yeah, and those are 3 early release days. And so, getting kids back into school, they haven't been back since March. So it's going to take all of us a little adjustment time to get back into the school habit. And walking those schedules and figuring out where to go and how to work with all the new procedures. I know one of the new procedures that's going on throughout the district is about face masks. Can you explain about what the rules are for face masks and what it's going to mean for Timber Creek students?
Yes. That we are definitely using. So masks will be required of all students and all staff members at all times. That is truly a non-negotiable. So that is something we are definitely going to enforce from when students walk in the door and all those pieces. So that is definitely something, Falcons, that you must have. So you can go ahead and start buying your Falcon family masks or just kind of your favorite masks to be able to bring, but those are definitely required in the classroom, in the hallways. Every part of our school day, you must have a mask on. So please be prepared. Bring your masks with you. We also have some that we have for you. So if for some reason you need one, we have those available to you as well, but we absolutely need you. You must have your mask. So please make sure that's something that you're bringing with you and you're wearing correctly the entire time that you're here.
So that's important information. I know a lot of parents had asked that question. I know that we are communicating that in a bunch of different ways. What's going to happen to a student if they just forget to bring their mask one day?
Yes, so if you forget to bring your mask, we'll definitely have one available for you. But if it's kind of a different situation, I understand if you forget them, we definitely have available ones, but it becomes a little bit of a different situation if we have students that are just refusing to wear them. So hopefully that's not the case, as it is definitely a non-negotiable, but if that's kind of something that you don't feel comfortable with, you may want to really think through your choices of remote learning and if really in-person is really what you want to do, but you will definitely have them on at all times. So the only time you would be able to remove your mask is lunchtime. And during our lunch processes that we're currently working through, you will have 6 feet of social distance between you and others. So that will be the only time that you would be able to remove your mask. So definitely something to think about as you make those decisions on that survey that you're going to talk about, I think, soon. To really think through those pieces, but masks are definitely required. So we definitely understand if you forget them. We're very supportive and helpful if that happens, but it's definitely mandatory that you're complying with that and really making sure that happens. It's just like a pencil or your books or anything that you need for school, that mask is just added on to that list.
Really is about that instructional survey. That date has also been moved. Originally, it was due yesterday at like midnight, but that instructional choice survey that's been sent out to parents has been moved to the due date of August 12th. I know the answer to this question, but if you can tell our parents at home, why is it so important that they get those choices completed even before August 12th?
Yeah, so that really truly helps us plan for how many students we will have. Our remote learners, we definitely want to make sure you have technology, make sure you have your hotspots, and just make sure you're ready to go. So the sooner you can complete it, that really helps us make our plans. We can definitely know how many students to expect, and then that helps us separate our classrooms and ensure they're set up with social distancing to allow for just however many students we have. So really, really important that you make your choices on there. Yes, it is due. You still have a little bit of time. So we will kind of be coming out with our processes and finalizing those very, very soon to give you more specifics. But please make sure you're going through and just filling that out. Again, once we get those numbers, that will how we make our decisions as far as class sizes, choosing remote teachers, in-person teachers, and all of those things. So very, very important that you complete that as soon as possible and get those answers back to us so we can complete our plans.
Yeah, and we're definitely going to be talking more tonight. We've got some videos from the district too that help explain in-person learning and remote learning too, to help parents out there who might need to make that decision, or students out there who might need to still make that decision. Something else cool is happening on August 12th. We're supposed to have our virtual fish camp open for our incoming ninth graders. What can you tell us about that event?
Yes, that's exciting. I'm so excited to welcome our new freshmen into our family. So we have 3 sessions set up for Fish Camp on the 12th. We divided it by last name. So last name's A through GOM is in the morning, 8:30 to 9:30. We have a Zoom scheduled. GON to OS is 10:30 to 11:30, and then OT to Z is 1 to 2. So what you'll do is you'll log on to the Zoom meeting. I will be in each of them, and also your assistant principal that's over your alphabet, and your counselor will be there to meet you. Our student council sponsors will be there, and then all of our amazing student council officers and members will be there to get to know you a little bit better, answer any questions you may have, and we'll spend some time together on Zoom. And then you'll be able to go to our website and really look through some more details about Timber Creek and everything that you may need to know as you arrive to our family and get to know everything about us. So we're really excited to get to meet our new Falcons, and I think that's going to be a great event. So look forward to seeing all of our freshmen soon. It's free, so feel free to log into those Zooms. If you can't make it during the time of your last name, feel free to pop into a different one. We have t-shirts for sale, but definitely not a mandatory thing. It's just optional. So it's absolutely free. Log into those times, and I look forward to seeing you there.
And so we're going to have all sorts of things on there. I've been communicating behind the scenes with some of the student council people to help make that cool site too. So again, we'll have all of those details that Ms. Summerholder just talked about will be posted on the Talon, and we'll have them shared out with you guys very, very soon. But you know, we're working, 16 hours, 20-hour days, not 20 hours, but you know, every minute of the day getting new and more updated information. And I've heard, a little birdie told me that you have some brand new information about parking. Is that correct? Okay.
I think about
So this is
Yes.
for our one friend. We've got a wonderful incoming senior class. We love you, senior class of 2021. We've heard your cries about parking, and so we have some details to finally reveal to you.
Yes, hello, seniors. I think about you often, and I have not forgotten about all the many things that occurred during your senior year and they've been looking forward to. So I have some exciting information. All the details will be coming out in the next couple of days, but we are going to be painting senior spots. Yay!
Yay.
But you will be able to come up here and get your spots and paint them. We are going to account for social distancing, so we put some dates together. You will soon get some information about parking spot selection and all of those different pieces. But the most important part, I wanted to go ahead and give you some dates to put on your calendar so you can kind of start planning what your spot design is going to be. The seniors always come up with something super creative that is so impressive. So you have a little bit of time still to figure out what that may be. So the dates are, if you have an even numbered parking spot space, which you will find that out more information soon, you need to reserve August 20th and August 22nd. If your parking spot is an even number. And then if you have an odd numbered space, you will reserve August 21st and August 23rd. So those are 4 dates. We're going to run from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. So we will give you more information on selection and payment and all those other details, but I wanted to make sure that you hear that we are planning for all of your senior things. These are the dates you need to write down, and then we will give you all the details here soon. But I was so excited to share that because we have been thinking about you and we love you and we've been working on it. So I'm so excited to announce it.
Yeah, and it looks like you're it looks like you stalled out there just for a second, but that's totally okay. So we're gonna have those details also again available on Talon, available on our website, all of that kind of stuff. Again, in the next few days. A lot of this information too, we are just getting sort of, I don't want to say confirmed today, but approved today is probably the best way of saying it. So we're working hard to get those details to you. I just have a couple more questions that people had brought up. So is there any planning for any type of schedule walk event or try to give kids the opportunity to explore the building a little bit even before the first day of school?
Absolutely. So we do have a schedule walk that we're planning. I do not currently have a date for you yet. Looking at a little bit closer to when school starts, but we are planning an event where students will be able to come up and have their schedules and be able to kind of walk the building. At that point in time, all of our social distancing things will be in place. So from floor markers to, you can see the cafeteria with the social distancing marks, our building will be set up and ready to go. So when you walk your schedules, you'll be able to kind of see what it will look like. And just all those pieces and the signage and everything else. So hopefully just seeing the building, you can find your classes and kind of see the process will hopefully reduce some of that anxiety for any of our anxious Falcons out there. But it's going to be a fantastic year. We are here to support you and make you feel safe. We have all the safety precautions in place and protocols that we're addressing. So we are excited to be able to get our Falcons in just before school starts to be able to do that. So that'll be a little bit closer to once school starts on the 26th, but we will communicate that very, very soon on how that process will work. So that's a really great question.
And so just to kind of reiterate here too, who, like when we're developing all of these plans and procedures for getting kids back to school and getting them socially distanced and stuff, can you explain sort of how those procedures are generated?
Yes, absolutely. So we definitely, the district does a really great job of giving us all the kind of overview of everything that needs to be put in place. What we're doing this week and next week is really presenting all of those details and information to our teachers and all of our staff members. So they do a really great job of looking them over, providing feedback, ensuring that it's very specific to our campus. So we definitely take all of those, follow all the details and really make everything work for our campus. So from all of our administrators to all of our counselors to all of our teachers, we are all working diligently to ensure that everything has been addressed, and we will absolutely be ready day one of school for our Falcons. So just lots of work goes into that just to ensure we've addressed everything. So every question, every detail will definitely be addressed, and we'll have all of our processes and procedures down. So it's a really fun process that once we get that stuff, then we can really get staff feedback and really work through those things together. So it's a great piece of building the Falcon family and ensuring that we're all on the same page. So we've enjoyed working through those to just ensure we have everything needed in place. So it's been good.
Yeah, I've already been on one of those meetings, and it was super productive about how as teachers and as administrators, we're all working together to make sure things are safe and ready for the Falcon family to come back together. So are there any other pieces of information you want to share with our audience tonight before we let you go?
Well, I just want everyone to know that we are here. We are here for you, whether you're a remote learner or an in-person learner, you are a part of the Falcon family. So we are still going to find ways to connect if you're a remote learner, as you are still a part of us. So just know that I'm super excited for you to be back. It's going to be a fantastic year. Parents, if you have questions or concerns, please reach out to me. Students, same thing. Go ahead and email me or reach out if you have questions or concerns. But we are here to support you. We are going to be ready day one, and it's going to be a fantastic year. So we're excited. I cannot wait. As you can tell, I'm so excited to get our Falcons back in the building. So just excited.
Yeah, that's great. And additionally, we should just remind our viewers, as well as more information comes out, it will be available on the Talent, timbercreektalent.com. It'll be available in our app. We'll put it out on Twitter and Facebook, on our official Keller ISD websites, and everywhere that we can go. We may even do one or two more events like this, just to make sure that we're getting out that information as many times as possible, to make sure that you understand, all of the policies and procedures that we're putting in place to really keep everybody safe and bring back the Falcon family. I'm excited too. I'm excited too to see my students. I saw one of my students on the sidewalk and had to roll down my window and shout hooray, because
all the teachers I've talked to are just so excited. They just can't stand it. So we are thrilled to have y'all back. And if you're a remote learner, we're thrilled to see you again on Zoom. So we're just excited. So we're ready to get back and get started. And staff has been fantastic and amazing and super supportive and just ready to serve our Falcons and, make the difference in their lives that they make. So it's going to be awesome. And thanks to the Talent and you, Greg, for everything you do to help communicate all of our information. We're always open to questions or however else we can answer to make that the best we can. So.
Yeah, and it's the perfect time to say, if you've got a question, hit it in that chat box, send us an @ on Twitter, put it on Facebook, however you want to send us a comment or question, and we'll try to get it to this live stream. Thank you so much, Ms. Summerholder, for taking some time out of your evening now, 7 o'clock, and you're still at school. So thank you very, very much. And then I wanted to talk about remote learning, so we're going to transition that way. But thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
So about remote learning specifically, let me switch over to a different general information slide to help you out, because that's one of the biggest questions that we've been getting lately is about in-person and remote learning options. So school is now going to begin on August 26th, and there's two choices for your remote learning, or two choices for your learning. First is the remote option that has already So first is the remote option, which is going to be done online, and that has been a big question for a number of parents and a number of different people about exactly what is remote learning going to look like during this school year. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to get it right from the source. And so we're going to show you some video of our lead for virtual learning in Keller ISD, Elaine Plybaum, talked to Dr. Rick Westfall about how remote learning will appear for students and for teachers in this video clip.
Joining us is Elaine Plybaum, Director of Personalized Learning in Keller ISD. So Elaine, let's talk a little bit about what we're doing in terms of the personalized learning piece for our teachers, getting them trained up for this next school year.
Well, the very first thing that came to my mind when all of this happened back in March was that we really needed to be sure to prepare our teachers for being able to logically translate what happens in the classroom to an online or digital setting. So that's really what my department really ramped up, the opportunities for teachers to learn how to become remote ready. So we've had about 1,800 teachers who have either gone through training or who have signed up for training to become remote ready and really understand how to do what I do best in the classroom, but in an online environment.
So that's the training of the teachers. Mm-hmm. From a parent's perspective, or even from a student's perspective, if they're remote, if they're learning remotely, what resources are available to them so that the parents can help the kids learning? Because obviously we're not going to expect from 8 to 4 they're going to be glued onto the computer the entire time.
Absolutely
So
not.
what resources are we providing to them?
Yes, so one of the things that my department, along with some other departments, we're collaborating on is a good parent handbook or guide, so that they'll be able to know just the basics of what they need to know about technology, troubleshooting, or how to monitor my student, and also a lot of really important information about brain breaks and things like that. We absolutely will not want students to be sitting in front of a computer all day.
Right. So what does a typical remote learning day look like for, I know elementary school might look different than secondary, but can you kind of give a quick remote learning schedule of what it could look like?
Right. So one of the things that always comes up frequently when people ask me about online learning or virtual learning is that really everything is very similar to what happens in a classroom. So at the elementary level, students will have times of the day that they're working on specific kinds of content. As I said, they won't be sitting on that computer all day long, but they may have times where they'll log in, visit with their peers, have some small group instruction or one-on-one instruction or whole group instruction with their teacher at different points throughout the day. For the secondary students, they'll have a schedule just like they always have, where my first period class is with this teacher. Again, they're not going to be in there all during that period, but they'll log in at some point to get information or know what it is they need to be working on, and then they'll be able to work on that on their own.
So there's a couple words that get thrown around prior to the pandemic, which is virtual learning, and now we're using the word remote learning. So, and what I don't want to do is confuse people on if there's a difference between those two or not. So what is remote learning and what is virtual learning in the way we're using it here in Keller?
Right, and you're right. We've had the virtual learning program since 2014 in Keller. And what virtual is, these are students who have decided that online learning is the way that they learn best. It is not a situation where they've suddenly had to be online students. It is that they want to be an online student. In Keller, we, because of state regulations, we can't have a full-time online student, but we can have nearly full-time. And what I mean by that is that students could just be attending class for as little as one class period a day and take the rest of their classes online. So that's our virtual program. For the remote learning, that is specific to this current situation.
Got it.
Parents have decided, I want my child to stay at home while this is going on. Those teachers are still highly qualified Keller ISD teachers who will be teaching those students through digital platforms.
So absent the remote learning piece that we're dealing with now, this is not new to us. We've already been figuring out the virtual learning piece with a lot of our kids already.
Yes, we have.
How many kids do you think would have gone through that or are currently enrolled in our?
Well, on an average year, I have anywhere between 1,200 to 1,500 students who are partaking of some kind of online learning. For our nearly full-time virtual program, this last year we had about 100, and I anticipate having about twice that this year as that program grows.
Great. So what kind of flexibility can we offer to parents? They might be remote only, but they also might have, whether it's interruptions in their day where they have to be somewhere or they have to go to work. What are some things that we can do to help support our parents in that effort?
So one thing that we can't do is ask our teachers to work around the clock, obviously. But one of the things that really remote learning actually affords us the opportunity for is that work is all there all the time. Anywhere that you have a device and internet access, the students will be able to work on it on your schedule. And as far as those synchronous sessions, when teachers have Zoom sessions, teachers will handle those the same as they do an absence in their classroom, where they'll bring that student up to speed the next time that they talk to them on the things that they missed. So it's really not a lot different than how it is in the classroom.
Got it. Anything else you want to add just to kind of help parents understand what our remote learning concept will be going forward?
Well, the one thing that I've noticed a lot as I scroll through social media is that a lot of parents are really kind of struggling with the idea of having to teach their children, and I just really hope to stress to them that it's our Keller ISD teachers who are going to be teaching their children. The teachers are trained, they know what they're doing. Parents' roles are really not that different as they ever have been. It's monitoring your students' progress, encourage them to do their homework, and those kind of things.
Right. Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for your team for getting all this planned and put together, and for the training that you're providing to our teachers.
Happy to do this.
We definitely hope that video could help give some more context and information on what remote learning actually looks like for Keller ISD. One of the key things that I want to reiterate that Eileen Plybaum just said is that Timber Creek teachers will be some of these remote teachers. So it is actually people that may be in the building working there alongside the in-person learners, but you'll be working, if you choose the remote option, there will be a specific Keller ISD teacher assigned to that role. So it's not going to be a whole lot different than what you would see in the classroom. Again, we're still collecting a whole bunch of questions, but one of the things that I really wanted to emphasize again is the instructional choice selection that you should have been sent in your email box. And on the left side, or this side of me, I guess now, because my camera's flipped, is specifically this selection form, and I wanted to walk you guys through it just a little bit because the instructional selection can get a little confusing if you haven't walked through this before, and as a reminder, we really need this information in as soon as possible. The actual due date is August 12th. If it hasn't been completed by August 12th, the student is going to default into in-person instruction, and so then they're going to be required to come to school every day, wear their masks, comply with all of the protocols that will be in place for safety and security there on campus. But if things are concerning to you, or you're worried about infections, or you're worried about some other kind of situation, we hope to give you some more information about remote learning. But let's talk about this survey, because as you walk through this process, the first thing you're going to do is log into this new portal called Aries. And Aries is our new version of Home Access Center. If you're a returning Keller ISD student, then you probably have been to Home Access Center before to check your schedule or check your grades or any of this kind of stuff. Aries is the new version of that. It's just a different system, so it's just a little bit different. You'll be able to go into that parent portal, and you'll have actually gotten an email from Keller ISD. So let me zoom in just a little bit. You've probably got an email to the new parent guardian account created, and then you're going to need to go into that. And if you didn't for some reason get an email for that, you can go into this link. All of this is available on the district's website. Specifically, if you go to kellerisd.net/back-to-school, you'll see that link a lot tonight. Please go ahead and go there for all of this information as well. You're also going to be able to go in and insert all of this kind of stuff. If your student is in 9th through 12th grade, which is most of the people who are watching this live stream, we're going to complete step 2. And step 2 is where things can get a little tricky. So one of the things that it's going to show you on your Aries schedule is the classes option and course requests menu. So what you're going to see is some of those same course requests that students filled out even as early, last year, even before the pandemic sort of hit. And that information will be the course requests for the student for that year. The columns from 0 to 9 represent the periods of the day. We don't have a 9-period day, but we do have an A-B block schedule. So it kind of does some math in there. If you see a green checkbox in a circle under any of those columns, that means that you're scheduled in a course for that period of the day. It'll also give some information for you about things about requirements not being met, or some other things about physical education. You don't need to worry about that. That's simply just some information that hasn't been updated in the system just yet. The only classes that will be shown on the schedule, though, are the ones that are offered in person. So one of the interesting things for our people who may want to see their schedule for next year, because all the students kind of want to know, well, I filled out this survey, so can I see my schedule for next year? Maybe. The only classes that will be shown are your students scheduled offered in person. If you do not see schedule information, that means the student's not currently enrolled in any courses that will be offered in person only. What that means is that there's still an opportunity for you to take all of those courses remotely. So we've gotten some questions from a couple of different people about, hey, this course, I thought I had to take it in person, but it's not showing up on my thing. That means that there will be a remote version of that course. Many fine arts are scheduled that way, so many arts classes, dancing classes, a whole bunch of different things are that way. Specifically, only hybrid classes which will require in-person learning, and that's advanced CTE courses and then some very specific fine arts courses, and we can get to that list in a minute. Essentially, your schedule may not show anything when you first log into Aries to complete this survey. Now, the important thing is you have to complete this survey and choose in-person or remote before our counselors can actually start building classes and building class sizes, which is a weird situation. One of the big situations about that is that we can't tell you right now what period your different classes are going to be because we don't really know right now hard and fast numbers for how many students are going to be back in the building versus going to be doing online remote learning. And so the more people that we can get to fill out this survey, the better it's going to go for all of our counselors, the more information we can get out to you, and the better all of our plans can be and more accurate all of our plans can be, because we will have everything ready to go. So when you get down to step 3, the instructional choice selection form, there is basically 2 options. The 2 options are remote or in person. And if you select if you've got additional students in your family, maybe you have a brother or sister, you will also need to work on to change students. From this thing, you will be able to make sure that you've made those choices. Now, we also understand that a lot of people actually did their survey, and they thought their survey was due on the 5th, and it's getting more time, and we've pushed back the date and the opening and stuff like that. You can actually go back into Aries using this information and make any changes that you need to. If you want to make a change from in-person to go remote, you can do that. And there will be some other opportunities for you to switch throughout the school year. So we really wanted to talk about that survey just for a quick little minute about that. So you can also contact us with different questions, different informations. But in summary, it's school as normal when you go into remote. You're going to have specific periods of the day. You're going to have a specific schedule. You'll go to those class periods at those times. Sometimes you'll have Zoom interaction meetings. Sometimes you'll have coursework on Canvas or Google Classroom. Sometimes you'll have not in-person activities, rather, individual activities is the word I was looking for, that you're going to do some individual study and things like that. However, you will have a Keller ISD teacher on the other end of that course that can help you and answer questions. And there will be some other opportunities, discussion forums, all sorts of different ways. But like we mentioned, and like Ms. Blybaum mentioned as well, it's going to look a lot like school. It's just online. It's just remote, self-paced blend of live instruction and practice through online pieces. If you've worked on a Canvas class before, that's excellent, but grading will apply, assignments will apply, assessments will apply, your schedule will be as close to as possible, and it is also an attendance thing too, so you will have to show up for your remote classes on that time. We want to quickly talk about hybrid courses, again, because there are specific courses that may show up. And when those courses show up on that Aries survey, those are the ones that are hybrid courses. And so you will have to figure out whether or not, here, let me actually open this up for you real quick. Here's our hybrid course list. So I'm going to go through this kind of quickly, but again, you can find all of this on that back to school page on the Keller ISD website. So these are some of the courses you might see in your Aries schedule as you're trying to make the decision whether to go remote or to be in person. And some of those include audio-video production, aerospace engineering, mostly a lot of KCAL classes. So that's really important. If you were expecting to go to KCAL this year, then you're probably doing a hybrid class schedule in some form or fashion. All of the practicum classes, I think all of the practicum classes are included in there. And then athletics is another key one as well. Baseball, basketball, cheerleading, cross country. Cross country season's coming up. Shout out to our cross country kids who are already training. I see you running around, keeping socially distant too. I appreciate that. But drill team, football, swim and dive, track and field, all of those. I don't know why tennis is on there twice, and I mentioned it last stream too, but whatever. And of course, our mighty wrestling program. Shout out to Coach Conger and the fantastic wrestlers out there. All of those high school athletics classes that are on that list, including golf and soccer and swim and dive and all those different things, are hybrid options. Now, the key thing about hybrid options, and we'll talk about fine arts too, is you're going to need to be responsible for the transportation to get to these hybrid courses. Again, a lot of them are on are at KCAL, and so there will be some situations where we're going to talk about how to transport people to and from KCAL via buses. But some people may have a situation where they don't have they're remote except for one class, which they might want to go into KCAL. It's also possible to say, hey, instead I want to be remote only, so I'm not going to take this class or that class. We don't want that to be a problem for anyone, but it's something to be very well aware of. And let's go down to fine arts as well. We've got choir and band, all of these orchestras, pianos, technical theater, a whole bunch of things that are really key for our fine arts group that could be hybrid. However, there will also be some opportunities for fine arts remote as well. But for instance, show choir, color guard, percussion, those theater production classes, and especially those upper level ones for seniors, juniors and seniors and stuff are really great opportunities for you to be here in person. We're making it as safe as possible and to still have a wonderful time in the Falcon choir or band or theater or wherever you may go. Additionally, even AP classes are offered online or in person. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about that next and talk a little bit about the advanced academic options that are available out there for our students, even coming up both remote and in person.
And right now we're welcoming Donna Hodge, our Advanced Academic Coordinator. So Donna, let's talk a little bit about everything that's being included in our new normal right now for our community, but everything advanced academics. Talk to them about that.
Awesome. Our advanced academics and gifted and talented team have been working on redesigning our curriculum to make it more blended with the digital piece so that we can ensure that all of our GT kids have support no matter where they're learning from, whether that be remote or in person. And our GT specialists have been creating new services with social emotional supports for our advanced students in 7th through 12th grades so that they'll be able to connect with each other. So our GT specialists will be getting back and sharing information with their parents and students through their campuses.
So talk a little bit about when parents choose in person or they choose remote. What will that look like? If you're in person, are you still going to have the same GT services that they've had in the past, or is that going to look a little bit differently depending on the campus?
We have a couple of different methods for our services currently, which will depend on different campuses and their needs and their students. So we do have a range from our traditional pull-out services to a blended method for our services currently piece with digital curriculum as well as the virtual connection between students and the GT specialist.
All right, so what about our upper grade level kiddos that are taking pre-AP and or AP classes? Are those going to be offered just like we would if they were in person?
Our AP and pre-AP classes will be offered in our remote learning. Then we will have, it will be based on enrollment. Sure. And so we have a lot of students that if they want that class, then we need to ensure that we have the teacher in place and that we are validating that teacher's expertise and those course resources to make sure that we're using them efficiently.
So what are some other things that you'd like to make sure our parents understand about what advanced academics might look like as we enter into this? What would you like to tell the parents?
With advanced academics and gifted and talented services, we know that our students need more than just academic support. So we're looking at making sure we've got both sides of that support ready to go for our kiddos, whether they're remote or in person, through our connections with our new Facebook page and our new online learning tools through Google Classroom and Canvas. as well as reaching out with campus communication so that it's blended together.
Great. Well, thanks for everything that you're doing. Thanks for I know you're partnering up with many people in the CNI world to get this all done. So the work you're doing for our advanced academic kids is appreciated. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
And again, we're back here with more answers to your questions. Hopefully that answered a little bit of your questions about some of the advanced academics, including AP and pre-AP classes. But right now we want to dig into some questions and some answers for you guys. From Twitter, April asked, Fish Camp. Yes, Fish Camp is coming up August 12th. It's going to be a virtual Fish Camp. We're going to have a couple of opportunities in the morning. Ms. Summerholder talked about them a little bit earlier today, or earlier tonight, just a couple, like 30 minutes ago. So Fish Camp, again, the date is going to be August 12th, and if your last name begins with A through GOM, between 8:30 and 9:30, there will be a Zoom call for that group of people. If your last name begins GON through OS, you'll be from 10:30 to 11:30 on a Zoom call. And if your last name begins with OT through Z, or Z if you're Canadian, you're 1 to 2 p.m. on that Zoom call. However, another key cool part of Fish Camp this year is that we are working on getting you videos, pictures, maps, all sorts of information that you'll be able to find on a virtual website that Student Council is helping us build. Talon's going to help out, TCTV is going to help out, TCFM is going to help out. We're going to do all we can to make sure that you have a great Fish Camp experience, even though we have to do it virtually this year. So that was one of the key questions that we got from Twitter. We've got a question about senior parking. So Ms. Summerholder announced tonight that the senior parking painting days are going to be August 20th or the 22nd from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. if you have an even numbered space. We'll get to that in a second. Or if you have an odd numbered space, you'll paint from August 21st or August 23rd from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The reason that they're doing even-numbered, odd-numbered spaces is so that we can be socially distanced from each other. But again, those are August 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd. The more information will be coming on how you actually do the parking spot selection time. It's not necessarily a first come first serve situation, but we don't have exact details on how that's the parking selection part and the pricing and that kind of stuff will come here in the next couple of days. So thank you, Robin, for that question. Penny, we just answered. Yes, we are having a Fish Camp August 12th. Okay. Explain how the masks will work. Are they wearing it all day or just in between classes? Students, as Ms. Summerholder announced earlier today, and throughout all of Keller ISD, students will be required to wear their mask at all times. Staff will be required to wear their mask at all times also at Timber Creek High School. There's some specific language if you have a special education student or a 504 accommodation, but those are very small situations that we can talk about at a different time. Essentially, though, the masks are going to be worn everywhere, and the wording from Ms. Summerholder during our interview earlier today was non-negotiable. So the opportunities are wear a mask in person or maybe take the remote classes. Hybrid teaches classes. If a student chooses hybrid, will their remote classes be taught by a TCH or campus teacher, or be like remote only, and the teacher could be from anywhere in the district? A question from Stacy. Thank you, Stacy. It's good to hear from you. Choosing hybrid, the remote classes are likely taught by the TCHS teacher specifically. We're working on offering as many TCHS teachers for as many remote classes as well. There's no guarantee. That's the trouble right now, that when we get some more information back from the survey data and we know how many kids are coming in person versus how many people want to do remote, that way we'll know exactly which classes they've they've chosen, whether or not they've chosen to be in the hybrid program, in the remote program, or in the in-person programs, and then we can figure out exactly which teacher on which campus is going to work best with that student. But counseling is doing all they can to make sure that TCHS students are matched with TCHS teachers. That's not a guarantee though, and so that should be made aware of that. We just answered that mask questions. Oh, do we have any information on how Timber Creek is providing supplies to the high school students? Thank you, Lauren. So the for school supplies, we are able to provide school supplies for high school students. The details of that are coming from the district a little bit later as we get a little closer to the start date. Something else that's important about school supplies is if you're an incoming freshman and you haven't been to high school and haven't joined our Falcon family yet, welcome, first off. But second, most of the information about school supplies are going to vary based on teachers. And as teachers are revamping and figuring out how they're going to do their classes, whether in person or remote and all of that situation, we don't really have a whole lot of default school supplies or a list available for people to pre-buy. I know that's a little inconvenient, but know that we are working on school supplies and including disinfectant supplies and things for the teachers to make sure that we have a really safe situation. Jess sent in some wonderful questions, and I wanted to go through some of her questions here too. There was a question specifically about remote learning, and I hope that the video from a little bit earlier about remote learning, and you can view you can view actually all the question and answer videos that we are showing tonight on the Keller ISD page. If you just go to the Q&A videos, every video that we're showing from Keller ISD is available here. And so one of those questions was about remote learning, and this video we actually just showed just a couple minutes ago before starting this question and answer session. And this one specifically about remote learning is talking about how you know what that's going to look like in a given day. Now it's going to be different for every student. You know, certain students are going to have a couple of classes in a row and some time and then a break and brain breaks and all this kind of stuff. But a lot of it's going to look like going to school, but you're just in your house. Which is kind of, it may take a minute for you to think about it that way, but that's how most of our teachers are treating it as well. We are training all of our teachers to be remote ready, regardless of if they are teaching a remote class at the start of the school year or not, just in case there are any situations that arise. So that's kind of important too. So one of the questions was, will they be watching videos and working on electronic assignments? Absolutely, but they will also be doing other things, not sitting on a computer from 8 to 4 every day. Those numbers are a little made up because it's not exactly that. For hybrid, we don't know how much time we're going to get from class from person, like to go from remote to person and all that kind of stuff. That's really going to be a real big question about once you have a student's schedule, and we'll see what works and what doesn't and what we can switch around. Counseling is working extremely hard to try to make sure that we've got all of the information once we get all the information in there to make it as convenient as possible so that kids can come, for a block of periods if possible. And that's a big question. In-person masks, what if the classroom can be set up where students are 6 feet apart? Can they take off masks for a while? No, we will have masks on all of the time in all of the classrooms, even if they're set up 6 feet apart. This is, again, Ms. Summerholder said earlier on, it's a non-negotiable. If you're in the building at Timber Creek, you're going to be wearing a mask. If you're learning remotely, you'll have the option to not be wearing a mask. So that's part of a question. There's going to be some situations where, hey, we need to eat and drink during lunchtime and stuff like that. So they will be able to remove their masks for very, very specific, very, very small situations. And we'll have exact details of what a mask looks like. How do you wear it? All of that kind of stuff. In just a few weeks, we should have some really, really great media that you can take a look at, some different options. So that'll be very, very good. Can we change from remote to in-person school? Yes, you can. In fact, after the first 9 weeks, you can switch either from in-person to remote or vice versa. For instance, let's say you start by going remote and things don't work out quite so well. The student just isn't learning or not connecting right, or there's technology issues or something's gone not as you hoped. You can move into the in-person learning. Vice versa, if it's in person and then you have a situation where you're like, there's maybe anxiety or some other situation that it's just that things aren't going very well, there is the opportunity after the first 9 weeks, after the first grading period, to switch from remote to in-person or vice versa. But please note, when you make a big change like that, that may significantly affect the student schedule, including which teachers they have, which subjects, which classes they may even be able to take. There's certain options that just won't be available. So it's really important to do what you think is best for your student at this period of time, and give it some time, because it will take some time to kind of get used to. And we're fortunate to have those first 3 days, like Mr. Summerholder was talking about earlier, as early release days to help get all of our students acclimated and welcome them into the Falcon family and make sure that they feel really comfortable in-person stuff. Another question, see the potential of being behind in a switch from remote to in-person due to teacher change? Absolutely. This is a situation that happens whenever a student actually switches teacher, whether they're switching in-person teacher to teacher or remote to in-person and stuff like that. But one of the things that's been really good, and something that we've mentioned, is the CNI team, or the curriculum and instruction team, has been working very, very hard on making sure that we have remote courses that are rigorous and definitely have the same information, so that in any situation, teachers and students can kind of pick up where they left off wherever they are in the situation that's moving forward. It's a different way of thinking about this, but if they get into a situation where they have to step away from campus or come back onto campus, or whatever the situation might be, is working. So thank you for those questions, Jess. I hope we got that information out to you. With that spot, senior spots, again, to remind you guys, senior spots, the direct information of how you can pay for it and pick your spot and all that kind of stuff will be coming out in the next couple of days. The actual dates to paint your spots will be from August 20th through the 23rd, depending on even or odd, and we'll give you more details in just a little bit of time. A few questions about schedule changes requests that someone would like to make before the year starts. So, a great question. We are lucky to have a whole new, not a whole new group, but a lot of new help in our counseling department. And so I wanted to get that information out there too. We have a bunch of brand new counselors, including a new college counselor who will be specifically helping students with college fairs and connecting to different universities and postgraduate programs. So basically anything that happens after you graduate. And so we have a bunch of new great people. The Alphabet has split a little bit. So what I would recommend is, if you have questions for your counselor, give us another day or two to update some of the information on our main website and on the Talon and things like that, because then you'll have all the details of who you can email about any counselor questions. Let me go to my chat window to see if there's anything else. Where do we purchase TCHS designed masks? Well, you can purchase them. Oh, thank you, Jen, for sending a link there for Josh. But also, different groups are putting together them as fundraisers. So we have, I think the theater department I've definitely seen, and I think some other programs as well are selling back to school gear, including face masks for students if they want to buy them through those programs. And so that's a good thing too. So let's check if there's any other last minute questions that I can answer before moving on to another topic or something else. Hopefully you're still out there watching in TV land? Well, you have to be, because at least 31 of you are. And so that means that somebody's out there. So what we're going to talk about next then is we're going to talk about safety protocols, because that's one of the big questions that a lot of people have been asking about. What does it look like, with our safety protocols? And so we're going to start by telling you that really the best place to go for information for safety and security across the entire district in terms of safety protocols for COVID-19 is the official Keller website under the safety and security page in the Back to School. And we're talking about it in 3 ways: prevention, mitigation, and response. But I'm going to show a quick video that's going to help explain a lot of those types of things. And then we're going to talk about the QR scanning and contact tracing pieces that will be part of the students' everyday kind of situation, everyday life coming into school here in the future. So here we go.
And joining us is Chris McLaughlin, Emergency Management Coordinator here in Keller ISD. Welcome, Chris, and let's talk a little bit about what you're planning for us to open up our schools in 2020, 2021.
Thank you very much. Absolutely. So we started thinking about and planning for different scenarios that we may face in the fall as early as April. And thinking ahead, that allowed us to create frameworks throughout the summer that we use to model for what we would face in the fall. And those go from preparedness and prevention, mitigation, and response. So preparedness overall is the planning impacts that we're doing right now, the things that we're working and bringing everybody together. Prevention is screening and trying to prevent the virus from even entering the school. So that's medical screening, that's temperature checks, the types of things that are going to prevent the virus from entering the school. Mitigation, so talking about face coverings and physical distancing, those types of things to reduce the transmission from person to person,
right.
Sanitation and those types of things, and cleaning. And then response, so how do we handle an incident if we have a reported case, transmission from person to person, how do we isolate, how do we contain, contact trace, and if we need to move a school from in-person to remote or back and forth in those scenarios. That's what we've been working on throughout the summer.
So you mentioned temperature checks. So are we expecting to check the temperature of every child before they walk into the building?
So some of those things will happen to the best of our ability. Obviously, we know that if we have large numbers of students that do return, that's going to be a difficult task because we have a lot of students in the district. So when we start talking about students entering the building, we're trying to avoid congregate settings. So if we're trying to do a temperature check on every student that walks in the building, if we have large numbers, we're going to create congregations in those lines as they're bottlenecking in the building. So we're working on training for recognition of symptoms and observations based on, having somebody monitoring students as they enter the building. And if anybody looks ill, if anybody appears to need those spot checks, and we'll do spot checks as needed. And if we are able to do more temperature checks or check everybody, we will do that. But those are going to be situational.
So how does recess work in this kind of a setting?
So recess will still happen. We still want students to have physical activity and as much social interaction and engagement as we can do, but we still have to maintain physical distancing and those kind of safety precautions as we can. And we've identified different resources that we can engage to allow for those types of physical activities to occur. So out on the playground, as much outside activity as we can possibly do. Those are great because it gets them outside of indoor environments. And there are specialized games and things that can be played that are designed for social distancing. So we're looking at those kind of tools and putting them in teachers' hands and in campus administrators' hands so they can design something unique to their campus and their own campus environments.
But likely, more organized activities in recess as opposed to you're just going out to a playground and playing, because obviously 6 foot social distancing doesn't work when everybody just kind of goes all at once.
Correct. It can't be entirely free for all in that scenario because we do have to try to manage some of that and try to keep everybody safe.
Sure.
So it is going to be somewhat structured in that setting, but we're going to try to provide some things that allow that social engagement, that recess, that fun time on the playground for students so that they can maintain that.
So another big congregant area is the cafeteria for lunches.
Yes.
So how are we thinking about managing lunches?
So that's, again, going to be kind of situational on the campus. It's going to depend on campus density, how many students actually return physically in person. It's going to depend on, is that campus, do we have a large enough cafeteria? Are we going to be able to take individual groups to spread them out enough in a cafeteria setting where we can allow that? If we can't do that and we can't have 6-foot distancing and manage those kind of things in individualized groups, then we may have lunches in classrooms. And that's going to be logistically different from campus to campus. So if a campus can manage delivery to the classroom, we might do that. If a campus may not be able to manage that on their own situation, then we could have a group of students in one class go do lunch pickup and return to their classroom.
Right.
So it could look a little bit different campus to campus, just based on their own situation. But Sodexo, our provider for child nutrition services, has been a great partner in that, and they've been working through some of those things on each campus to
Great.
provide those services.
So you talked a little bit about training to identify symptoms. But probably the biggest thing we're going to rely on are our parents.
Yes.
That for them to pre-screen, I guess, before they bring kids to school. So how would that work?
So it's a whole community response here.
Right.
We have to have the engagement of parents and the participation of everybody to make this work effectively. And I think that pre-screening in advance is going to be very, very important. So those 3 questions that we ask about symptoms, about contacts, and about anybody ill in the home is going to be very important. So if they make that part of the routine, and we're doing that daily, it's a simple online form. You can complete it in less than 30 seconds. If we're completing that for every student, we have that information that gives a reminder for the parents every day to check those things and be aware of those things and cognizant of that. So we're preventing virus from entering the school.
Sure.
And in doing so, then we're able to track and trace that data as well.
Right.
So if we have concerns, then we can make decisions based on a school level.
And just really quickly, is that an anonymous screening?
It is.
Okay.
It is. So we don't track any personal identifiable data in that. So
Right.
we're tracking based on general statistics within the school or the grade level.
Got
So
it.
if somebody happens to answer a yes to one of those symptoms, so somebody reports a COVID case in the home, or symptoms or a fever, something like that on that form, we are asking about the grade level and the activity within the school within the last 2 weeks, so that we can identify where those cases may be occurring. So if we have a cluster within a 3rd grade, then we know in that 3rd grade in that school, that may be a place where we have circulation of virus, and we may want to move that 3rd grade remotely. But if we're not seeing that among a 4th grade or a 2nd grade, and the rest of the school is not circulating, then we can keep other students safe and in person, and keep those
Sure.
other 3rd graders safe and break that transmission cycle.
Oh, great. Well, it's a lot of things we're trying to figure out, and I appreciate your time and the effort that you and your team are working on to keep our kids and our staff healthy and safe. So, again, thanks for joining us, and have a great day.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And again, the safety protocols that we are working through starts really with prevention and stopping COVID before it even enters the school. And one of the ways that the safety and security team and emergency management team is working to do that is about the QR code and the student survey that will be filled out, and not just a student survey, student, visitor, staff, all of those people will actually complete a survey each day, a medical screener kind of form that will give them general information about whether they've had a fever, whether they've been in contact with someone, which will help contact tracing in the future if we have an outbreak on campus or in any of the facilities in Keller ISD. So we wanted to show you a quick little video of what that QR form looks like, and so we can talk a little bit more about that detail as well. So here this is, and apologies for the robot voice, but it's kind of fun.
Keller ISD's student medical screening is online, quick, and easy. Complete 1 submission per student. First, choose your school. Then answer the following questions. Does the student or anyone in the home have a fever? Does the student or anyone in the home have a COVID-19 diagnosis or close contact with someone who has been diagnosed? Does the student or anyone in the home have any of the symptoms that are known to be related to COVID-19? 3 quick yes or no questions with no personal information needed. Clear guidance provided based on your responses. This is part of your routine to keep all of our families safe. If there is a yes response to any question, then we will ask about the student's grade level and prior attendance. It's that easy. You are done with screening in 30 seconds per student.
And so again, this screening survey that's going to be done every day for both students and staff is really going to help us make sure that the students who may have COVID symptoms are aware, so that they may know if they're in any situation, but also to follow up and do contact tracing if there is an exposure found. One of the interesting things that we've already got this piece up here, it says student screening right here, or employee visitor screening. These are already available on the Keller ISD website. So if you want to take a look, you'll have these here. But additionally, you'll also have links to these screening things on our Timber Creek website, on our Talon app, and on timbercreektalon.com itself within the next few weeks. A lot of the information that we're giving you tonight is almost, I wouldn't say a preview information, but a lot of it is going to be integrated even more closely in with our stuff as we get back to school, like I get back on campus on Monday, and then through the 12th and beyond that as well. So those screening processes are there, and they're available every single day, and they're really, really critical, important things for help us both prevent students who may have contracted symptoms or who have gotten into a situation where they were exposed, so that they know that, oh wow, I should stay home, or also see if perhaps that what they've been doing and whether or not they may have knowingly or unknowingly been infected or infect others as well. So that's some really important stuff that you're going to see each and every day, and you're going to get that done. Again, the Keller ISD website is a fantastic website for getting the latest, most up-to-date information, and we highly suggest going to this 2020 Back to School page. A lot of the information that we're providing on Talon is exactly the same as this stuff in here, and there's a lot of detailed information about how employees and visitor health is going to be screened. Even though we focused on student screening for just tonight, if you have questions about if you are a visitor or a volunteer or an employee or whatever, there's a lot of good details here and a lot of frequently asked questions that are in here that are good to go through. You know, we talked earlier about whether or not you have. We talked whether about the options of attending school in person or learning remotely. So those things are available. Fill out that ARIES survey, and then you get into a whole bunch of different questions. Things like meet the teacher nights and open houses and all this stuff. A lot of things too about younger folks. So if you have some students who are not only in 9 through 12, but maybe you've got younger kids in the middle schools or the elementary schools, there's a bunch of information in here. So currently also a thing to know about standardized testing. There have been no changes to the testing dates. In fact, SAT and ACT administrations are starting to be announced out there. We saw some good information from new head football coach Marshall Williams sent out a graphic today to remind his football players to sign up to take the SAT, ACT, PSAT, things like that. But more details about standardized testing will be coming out here in the near future. We've got a question from Eileen. Will the school year instructional calendar be updated soon based on the new start date? Yes, it will. Let me see real quick. This has not been updated since after the board meeting. So let's do a quick recap of what happened on August 3rd, which was this Monday. So on this past Monday, August 3rd, the school board got together, the Keller ISD Board of Trustees voted to adjust the start date of the 2020-2021 school year to start on Wednesday, August 26th. So if you're thinking, oh, I got to go back to school on the 19th, no, you have one more week after that. The 26th will be the first day of school. The first 3 days of school are following an early release schedule that we will have available within the next couple of weeks. Pretty much we're looking at August 12th as being a really great day to get a lot of information out to you through our fish camp and through some other things that we're going to put out there. And you'll probably also see some stuff when we get closer to the end of August and closer to about a week before school. Believe it or not, we have 20 days until we go back to school. So there's a lot of great opportunities for us to get information out to you guys in these next almost 3 weeks. You still have the choice for in-person or remote instruction taking effect the day of August 26th. The additional week is designed to allow us to have more time to plan, adapt to new safety protocols, and receive additional training if necessary. However, as Ms. Summerholder said earlier during the interview, we've got a lot of those things already in place at Timber Creek that we're working on with safety materials and protocols, and even teachers are starting that input session to figure out things that might be challenges for us, even starting next week when we're on campuses as well. With the change of this start date, the change to that instructional choice survey, which we've talked a lot about tonight, but I know I want to emphasize that it is really important. It's been extended to August 12th. You can change your selection if you need to. And to access this form, you can go back to the email that was sent on July 28th, or you can visit to that selection instructions page, which we kind of went over earlier in the broadcast. Additionally, there's going to be some great continuing back to school information on this Keller ISD portal. I highly suggest that, taking a look at that, but also through our different media sources, Timber Creek Talon, Twitter, TCTV, live events, all sorts of things we want to do to make sure that you're really well informed and have the best information to make a really good informed decision. And so next we wanted to talk a little bit about one of our the great populations that we have in here are English language learners and bilingual classes. So we wanted to share one of the newest back-to-school Q&A videos that Keller ISD has put out, specifically talking about how ESL students and bilingual learners will be taken care of in this new normal.
Joining us is Mara Betancourt-Coker, our Director of Language Acquisition. So Mara, why don't you tell our parents a little bit about what ESL and bilingual will look like in this setting coming up?
Thank you. So all parents will have the opportunity to make the decision for remote or in-person instruction. And we're really encouraging all parents, regardless of the services they receive, to go ahead and let us know of their choice so we can make the appropriate staffing decisions. It's really important to know the exact number of students that will be in each group.
So I would imagine some of our parents, if they're thinking about that remote option, that could potentially go all year long. What things are we going to be able to provide to our bilingual students, our ESL students in a remote setting?
So for a bilingual student, it would be the same type of setting as a monolingual English-only classroom. They will meet with their homeroom teacher, whoever their homeroom teacher is, will teach the online component of it, and they will do their work at home. For the ESL services, we will do a Zoom pullout in lieu of a in-school pullout. So we would pull out a certain number of students that will be mostly beginners that will need help with their English.
Sure. So there's got to be a lot of organizational planning on the backside of this. So what does that process look like to get ready for something like this?
So we test every one of our students yearly, and we determine what level their English is. And depending on what level they are, if they're a beginner, they will need the extra support in the classroom. If they are an advanced or advanced high student, they can go along with their day as usual.
So as it relates to our ESL and bilingual students and their relationship to teachers previously, I know a lot of times that they create those relationships and those teachers stick with them over the course of potentially many years. So what are we doing to try to make sure that we can maintain those relationships from the ESL support and even from the bilingual classroom-based?
So the answer will depend on the specific campus situation. For bilingual students, certain bilingual students may have a team of teachers, and some bilingual students may only have one teacher per grade level. So we will try to customize that as much as possible to give parents the option to stay with their teacher whenever possible. For ESL students, those ESL students will have their homeroom teacher. They will keep the homeroom teacher, but their ESL Zoom pullout
Right.
may be a different instructor.
And like you said, a lot of that's going to be contingent on how many people choose remote.
Exactly.
Okay.
So really, the sooner we know how many people will choose one option over the other, the better equipped we'll be to make those decisions.
So what's the best way for our bilingual families to stay up to date on any of the things that you need from them or changes that are coming out? How can they best stay tuned?
So first, keep track of the Keller ISD Facebook and Twitter account, and then our department usually retweets everything else in Spanish
Great.
to keep everyone informed in their home language.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, thanks for everything you and your team are doing, and look forward to a great year taking care of our bilingual and ESL kids.
Thank you.
You bet.
And we're back with some more questions, frequently asked questions, and some hopeful answers here too. One of the questions that we get kind of often is about lunches, and each campus administrator is working right now to make decisions on how lunches are going to be handled, especially with figuring out how many students are going to be in person. And like the video just mentioned too, it's really critical for us to know how many people are going to be back on campus versus how many people are going to be remote. So make sure you fill out that survey. I know I'm going to keep harping on it, but make sure you fill out that survey. If you already have done that, thank you in advance. That helps us out a lot. But one of the things that we're working on specifically, and Mrs. Summerholder mentioned this earlier during her interview, in case you didn't catch us when we went live earlier today, or earlier this evening, rather, like an hour ago, is that we are going to have separation in the lunchroom so that we've got distance between students. Additionally, transportation is the big, a big situation. It's going to be provided to students who qualify, and safety precautions in place on campus will also be observed on buses. For instance, you're going to wear face masks on the bus. We're gonna wear face masks coming into school. We're gonna wear face masks going through the hallways. You're gonna wear face masks in the classrooms, and then even at lunchtime, there will be portions of the time where you are gonna continue to wear the mask, and sometimes where you're gonna be able to mask off so you can eat and all of that kind of stuff. All of the school buses are being cleaned even more rigorously than before, and additionally, we're going to have a lot of hand sanitizer. You're going to see a lot of hand sanitizer out in the hallways, in front of classrooms, in classrooms, near bathrooms, near high-touch surfaces, and things like that. One of the other interesting, cleaning and kind of pieces too is that our custodial staff is already doing a fantastic job making sure that everything is getting ready for the start of the school year, and they always do a fantastic job. A big shout out to our Timber Creek custodial staff. We really appreciate you, we really do. But also, they're going to be doing a lot more cleaning that's specifically designed to kill COVID-19 and try to reduce any possibility of spread or infection. And they'll be cleaning rooms every day. And so we're going to have also some different options for the employees, people, staff members, teachers, and things like that to clean up around their areas as well in their classrooms, to make sure that things are really, really safe. But, it is a pandemic, and so we have situations that are going to require our nurses' help. We're going to have people who need to see the nurse for different reasons, not only for the COVID reasons, but also for the reasons that students might normally need to see the nurse for, bumps and bruises and scratches and ice, and then also medication and other situations that they may have. And so we wanted to show you a little bit of information from another Keller ISD Q&A video about health services and how the nursing staff at the different campuses are going to help adapt to situations coming here in the future.
And joining us is Tricia Atzker-John, our Director of Health Services here in Keller ISD. So, Tricia, what does health services look like as we're opening up a new school year?
It looks a lot different. We are working through a lot of different plans. We're working beside every department: athletics, student services, nutrition services, transportation, special education, language acquisition, developing plans so that they can safely bring their small groups in to begin their assessments and strength and conditioning, whatever it is that they're working on. That gives us a great opportunity to work through some bugs, if you will, through all of their unique situations so that we can see what that will look like on the grander scale.
So, and I'm glad you brought that up. This is not just planning for August. You've already been, from your level of expertise, working through a lot of these things because we've had things going on to some extent throughout the summer with our kids.
Absolutely. We have been in it with the district since spring break and even before that.
So the day in the life of a school nurse probably shifted a little bit once spring break hit, obviously. Obviously we weren't back in the buildings at all.
Right.
But even now, what are some of the responsibilities that the school nurses are having to figure out how to adjust to in terms of their day-to-day work?
Our overarching concern is taking care of those students safely who come in every day for their meds, for the diabetes care, maybe that special procedure that needs to take place. How do we do that safely and keep them away from students who possibly are coming to the clinic for an illness?
Right.
We are working with a small group of nurses right now, developing a document that will help guide those conversations at the campus level.
Great.
So that each campus can develop their own plan, what works for their campus, their students, what talent do they have among their other staff members that they can tap into. The campus nurse will obviously be there to support and field questions along the way. However, students may receive their medications in a different location and maybe with someone else other than the nurse during the school day.
And that might look different at every campus depending on
Absolutely.
the situation that we're in. It's funny that you mentioned that because we talk a lot about how we're the experts in education. We know instructional models, we know how to do that, but we have a medical expert on every single campus who can help guide some of this training that the teachers are going to have to be aware of in terms of symptoms and different things that they're looking for.
Absolutely.
So they're definitely an on-site level expert. So I know we've received a few questions about immunizations and some of the requirements that we have to have done prior to entering school. So how has the world of COVID changed that?
There have been no changes.
Okay.
Immunizations are expected as usual, and the reason for that is herd immunity, which is just our safety net to help protect us and our other students, the most vulnerable, from pertussis, measles, those kind of things. If we let our guard down with some of those tools that we already have and are proven effective, that's just waiting to be a problem when we come back. We've got enough to deal with.
Yeah, right.
Let's keep with what we know.
No doubt. So what happens if a student or a employee is suspected of having COVID-19?
We will immediately begin that contact tracing. They will be taken to another area that, again, is designated by the campus where that might be. Start that contact tracing, start cleaning any areas that are identified that need to be cleaned, notifying people that need to be notified, and support that person until they can get off campus.
And then how are we going to notify parents about cases that happen on campus?
That will be guided by the health department.
Okay.
We could work through a whole host of scenarios on different situations.
Right.
But the foundation will rely on that contact tracing, both on the school district side and on the community health side, and attendance records, and those daily health screenings that I'm sure we've all heard about. All of those things will come into play as we decide who needs to be notified and when.
So one of the things that comes up is the identification of COVID symptoms. But if you look at that list of COVID symptoms, they look, remarkably like just about any other symptom to an illness, whether it's the flu or the cold. So how are our nurses being trained on how do you, if we have a potential COVID case versus a student that comes down potentially with a fever, but it's not a COVID case? Is there going to be a way to separate those kids in the clinic?
Absolutely. A lot of that will come from the dialogue, that conversation around COVID. What are your risk factors? What have your activities been? Has anyone in the home been sick? You may have a kiddo that comes in, has headaches routinely.
Right.
Well, just because they have a headache and it's listed on the list of COVID symptoms doesn't necessarily mean they've got COVID right out of the gate. Let's investigate and find out what the root cause might be. And according to the CDC, they really use 2 symptoms off the list as kind of a guideline. So if you have fever and a sore throat, yes, that could be strep or any other number of things. But again, we're going to automatically kind of go down the path of COVID until proven otherwise.
It's proven otherwise. Okay. So what else would you like to do, just in closing? What would you like to tell the families about the work of health services, just to ease their minds a little bit?
Well, the nurses are ready, armed. They're excited to get back into the buildings. They miss the kiddos as much as the teachers do.
Sure.
And they are just really working hard out there in different initiatives. They're right now checking shot records and communicating with parents who need to provide additional information around their shots so that we can be prepared to deliver that online learning platform on August 19th.
Great. Well, thanks for everything you and your team are doing across the district, and thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you.
And she just mentioned August 19th. At the end of that video was shot before this most recent board meeting on August 3rd that pushed back the actual start date of school until August 26th. But a lot of that information still applies. Nurses and other healthcare professionals are there, working through all sorts of different processes and trying to figure out exactly, well, they have a whole lot of solutions for how things are going to work. And one of those ways is that daily screening process. We went through that detail a little bit earlier on with safety and security precautions about how you're taking that survey each and every day. But one of the things we also wanted to mention is that we are going to have temperature checking stations at certain different places around the building. Not every student is going to be temperature checked, but we may have some situations where we are checking groups of students and looking at different situations. One of the other things we'll find, and we'll actually have a lot more details as we get a little bit closer to school, is that some of the entrances and exits of Timber Creek will be closed so that we have more direct situations, and we'll have lots of signage, lots of things up there to help students stay socially distant and try to mitigate any factors that would lead to any kind of spread of the virus. So we've detailed a lot of these things in our conversations previously. I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself, so let's make sure that we don't have any questions that I can answer. Chip sends in a question. He says, is there any news on the football season? What a great question, Chip. Well, new head coach Marshall Williams sent out a piece of information just a second ago, and let me see if I can't just pull it up here. Now, this might be a little too much detailed for you, Chip, but this is exactly the practice schedule, and you can barely see this. I'm sorry. This is the practice schedule for our new football starting up on Monday. Man, we're starting it up. I can't make this any bigger. I'm sorry about that, Marshall. I'm sorry about that, Marshall, but I'm also sorry about that, Chip. So players are going to be starting to get into conditioning and weights and all of that kind of stuff. They have had athletes there during the summer. Shout out to Coach Mercer and Coach Reeves and some other coaches that have been out there too, but those are the two off the top of my head I can remember seeing information about their programs. Whoops, sorry, I switched to the wrong thing there for a second. But Coach Williams, we're planning for Falcon football, man. We're planning to see them out on the field. Chip, but that's the only information I've got so far is the actual practice schedule right now. As we get more information from the UIL, that will probably make a difference in exactly how any sport looks, whether it be football or volleyball or any of these other situations that might be out there. We will have a lot more details about athletics, but at this point in time, we're still kind of figuring stuff out because we are in the situation that has to do specifically with UIL approval of different sports. And so I'm going to let Director of Athletics Eric Persine actually share some of that information that he shared with Dr. Westphal a couple of weeks ago, and we may see updates to the UIL stuff pretty soon, including close to this week. But here's what Eric Persine had to say a couple of weeks ago with Dr. Westphal.
Joining us is Eric Persine, Director of Athletics here in Keller ISD. So Eric, let's talk a little bit about what we're doing with athletics in Keller for the upcoming school year.
Well, we've learned a lot over the summer, and we're going to actually fall into this next school year with some limitations that we have, but we're going to stick with doing our strength and conditioning and our skills instructions with all our different sports and so forth, and that includes cheer and drill. We've had a great summer. We've learned a lot. Our kids have stepped up into, we've had probably some of the most amount of kids we've had in our camps ever.
Yeah.
And probably because they want to be out of the house. So we're going to continue that. We're going to continue all our protocols that we're doing. We want to get as many kids in athletics as possible. Usually on a normal year, we usually have between 9,000 and 10,000 kids playing athletics in Keller ISD. So we're looking forward to the fall, and hopefully we can get there very quickly.
So if parents choose remote instruction, like a permanent remote instruction set up for the school year, can they participate in athletics if they're choosing remote?
They can. So it won't be a problem. It's still going to be on their schedule like any other thing. We'll have scheduled practices throughout the day. The kicker they have to realize is that if they stay remote, there's no problem with that, but they have to be here physically for practices for them to be able to be in a game or attend a game for.
So they got to be able to get there.
Yes.
Because we can't run a bus to everybody's house just in the middle of the day to come pick up
They're
kids.
going to have to get there, and we're going to try to make it as simple as possible. And we realize there's some issues between a ninth grader and a senior.
Sure.
But we're going to work any way we can to help everyone we can.
Great. So let's talk about the recent announcements. We have a UIL announcement that came out the same day that the Tarrant County order came out. So how has that impacted us in Keller ISD?
Chaos.
That's one way to say it.
Organized chaos is what it says. We are scrambling right now to figure out a plan of action. The biggest thing that's kind of hit us is Tarrant County came out with their declaration, and it's limited what we can do inside, which basically is nothing. So our sports with cheer, drill, volleyball, basketball can no longer be inside until at least September 28th. They can move outside, but it's hard to tell a kid who's used to being inside all day that we're going to put you outside in 98-degree weather. For the outside groups, baseball, softball, track, football, everything else, we're able to do everything we can. They did put the limitation back onto us where everything has to be 6 feet social distancing, and so we're adhering to that right there. That's kind of closed us up a little bit because before this, we could actually do some one-on-one stuff, but we're not allowed to do that anymore. But hopefully September 28th will come and we'll be able to get back into that mode.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about high school athletics and the UIL requirements there. What is middle school athletics going to look like?
It'll be a little different. Of course, with high school athletics, most of our fall sports start prior to school for sure. Right. In middle school, they can't start until at least the first day of school, plus they have to get 5 to 7 days of acclimation period before they can do any type of outside the day athletics. So that's going to be a kind of concern that we're going to have to work through. We're also limited on the amount of days per season for volleyball and football, so those are some things that we'll have to figure out what's that going to look like.
And then the next transition is, what does pre-K through 12th grade PE look like for both in-person and remote?
Yeah, for remote, it's going to almost similar look like what we did in the spring. Our PE teachers and our 2 coordinators are doing a great job of creating those lessons on the different platforms so that the parents can see those, so they can, any type of skills or activities that we ask them to do, they'll be able to see it online and be able to have their kid do it as well. If it's in person, really our only issue we have to a point is if we're still under that 6 feet order of social distancing, that's going to cause some issues. We'll probably counter that by trying to go outside as much as we can in the fresh air, in the space, and so forth. If we're inside, we're just going to have to be kind of creative thinking what we're doing to keep our space between each other.
Got it. Got it. So what else would you like to make sure our parents or our community knows about what's going on in athletics?
I think that the one thing that I can really say is I appreciate how much through strength and conditioning and skills that we've done this year, the open communication to the lines of the parents and the kids. Any issues that we've developed, they've been very open with us. We've been able to work through everything. And our goal really is to get back on the fields and the courts and the pools and everything else as quick as we can in the safest manner, not only for our staff, but for our community and for our student athletes.
No, I appreciate what you, your team, coaches, teachers all across the district have been doing. So thank you very much, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, we've gotten all the way to 8:35 here today and had a lot of information, a lot of questions answered, but we wanted to kind of go through again and get some more questions that we have had coming out. Ryan asks, senior parking spots and Sunrise. So senior parking spots, again, the details for how you pick your spot, how you pay for your spot, and all of those kind of things are coming in the next couple of days. So I don't have those available for you right now, but I can tell you, once again, like Ms. Summerholder announced earlier tonight, that some of the parking days, the painting days, I should say, are the 20th of August through the 23rd, and there's going to be a staggering situation for even spots and odd number spots on how that all works. So Mary Ann asks what is happening with letter jackets. If you've got questions about letter jackets, I would definitely talk to your program sponsor. So if you're a theater person or a band person or a choir person or a student media person, whatever, talk to your program sponsor because it's different for every program. So thanks for that question, Mary Ann. April asks, what is the course of action if a child refuses to wear a mask? The answer is super simple. They're going home. The way that the regulations are put into the student code of conduct that every student who signs in to come for in-person learning states that they will need to wear a mask at all times. If they refuse to wear a mask or refuse to wear a mask correctly, they will be their parents will be called and they might switch to remote learning. Now, if it's an error, if it's an accident, if it's a situation, we're definitely going to try to help each other through the Falcon family to make sure that we're keeping as many people safe as possible. But know that if a child refuses to wear a mask, the option is non-negotiable is actually the word that Ms. Summerholder used earlier today in our live interview, and we'll have that also on Talon, in a couple of days. We have another question about homecoming. It is too early to give you information about homecoming because I'm not also, we don't have the full football schedule all set out exactly right, or at least ready to sort of talk about and publishable stuff. What I can tell you is Coach Marshall Williams is working hard to make sure that our Falcons are getting ready for whatever the football season looks like. And I would highly suggest go take a look at his Twitter account or just look at what we retweeted a couple of minutes ago with the practice schedule. Jimmy's saying something else that has to do with a different question. All right, that's cool. That's cool. Let me check to see if we've got any other emails in here too. We are answering as many questions as we can possibly get to, so we're going to check chat and we're going to check anybody online. Hello to Aubrey and Kathleen and Eileen who are watching on Facebook, and Josh and other people who might be watching on Facebook. Hello to you, and hello to everybody out there on Twitch land. If you haven't seen our live stuff before, we're doing it all from my office tonight, but luckily we'll be back on campus in a couple of days, so that'll be really, really cool, and TCTV will get kind of, I would say, back to normal, but back to the new normal. Speaking of the new normal, we've got a lot of great information coming out for our remote learners. You know, one of the big situations, or big questions rather, about remote learning is whether or not students have the technology support to get what they need, like a Chromebook or a hotspot for internet and things like that. And so Joe Griffin, our Chief of Technology, I think is what he's, or Director of Technology. What's one of those titles? You'll hear it in a second. Talked to Dr. Rick Westfall, our superintendent, about what technology is going to be available for both our remote learners and what we're going to try to do to make sure that the technology is out there and ready to go in time for school to start.
And now we have Joe Griffin, Chief Technology Officer here in Keller ISD. Joe, why don't you tell the community what we're doing regarding technology in light of remote learning, especially with our order that we just got from Tarrant County?
So we've developed a process where parents will be emailed a form to be able to select technology that they need. A little bit different than we did in the spring. We want every student to have technology, not share technology. Mm-hmm. So you'll be able to select that, connectivity for Wi-Fi. We've also been working with TEA, and they've enabled us to purchase some more devices so we can ensure that every student has a device that they would need for remote learning.
So what training is involved? I know a lot of parents are going to be curious just about what does that look like even for staff. So what training will be involved for the staff so they can, as you mentioned,
Sure.
It won't look like spring.
Yeah.
So what's it going to look like now for the fall for staff?
So we already have over 500 teachers enrolled in courses right now today that are learning how to do remote instruction. Mm-hmm. Plus the first teacher development weeks that we always have, it's devoted purely to online learning and setting up our classes and doing that. So we're putting a lot of effort to make sure that our students and teachers are successful.
So you mentioned TEA and partnering with TEA. Talk a little bit about the funding side of that. So does that mean that they're just helping us get devices, or is there funding coming from the state?
No, so really TEA, working with the governor's office, some federal money that they had coming in for COVID was directed straight to the schools so that the schools could purchase the devices. The state is actually paying half of everything that we're able to purchase. So it's just making our dollars go twice as far as they ever would. So great partnership with the state. We're really proud of that.
Great, fantastic. Anything else that you can share or you want to share with the community in terms of what technology is doing, not just to get started in August, but actually, forecasting where we're going to be heading?
Sure. So this year we have changed to a new student information system, ARIES. So parents will be getting information about that. No longer will they have Hack to log into, so there'll be new passwords, all that information. And another thing we're really excited about is parents will have their own portal now. Much like the students have K-Cloud for all the information, parents will have their own K-Cloud so that we can communicate with them a lot easier than we've done in the past.
Well, I appreciate everything you're doing and everything the technology department's doing to get this up and running and feel as normal as possible. So thanks, Joe, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
And one of those things about K-Cloud I just wanted to share with you is a little bit of a different look. This is actually a look into kind of my K-Cloud, believe it or not. But something cool about it is going to be an option for something called My Backpack. And this is My Backpack right now. This is all basically set on classes that I had last year. So these are not my classes this year, but I figured, maybe I can show you a little bit of something. This tool, My Backpack, is a really great way for our educators, teachers like me, to make sure that we've provided the resources to our students. We've got links to different things like Nearpod Rhythm and News ELA, which we're going to use a lot for my journalism classes, but also it'll have Canvas and other things like that available there so that students who are taking these different classes are going to have all of the different links that they might need, even if they're remote or in person, all in one place. So K-Cloud is getting a really great upgrade for that. Another great piece of information is, like Mr. Griffin was just saying, that parents will have a portal in which they're going to have a K-Cloud-like experience. So they're going to be able to look at stuff similar to this. So that a lot of different things that they might need to interact with, they can interact with a lot easier. So that's pretty cool. We're getting a couple more questions in here. A question from Lisa, who just sent it in. What will be done to take into account the extra access students doing in-home learning will have, resulting in higher grades versus students receiving in-person learning, as it will affect GPAs and class placement? Wow, what a great question, Lisa. So this is one of these great questions that virtual learning and remote learning and distance education has had to deal with for a very long time. If you've got a student who's got access to the internet, when you design a quiz or a test or something like that, one of the first things you got to do is figure out how to not make the answers Googleable. And that's really where it falls on the educator, whether it's the teacher or the course designer or however it's all put together, to make certain that the content that is designed for remote learners, people doing in-home learning, as you've mentioned, don't get an advantage necessarily to just look up all the answers to a quiz and get a perfect score. And the way that we solve that problem is really complex, but I wanted to take a minute to explain this because I think it's really important. People doing online courses are still going to have some of the same limitations that our students in person are. One of the things that even in-person classes are doing is trying to make more rigorous assignments that are more authentic to the learning experience. And what we mean by that is not just multiple choice tests. Certainly there's a place for that in assessing a student's knowledge, but we need to get our kids to do more than just rote memorization of facts and details. Instead, what we're trying to do is get them to be critical thinkers, trying to get them to interact with more complex topics than just the answer to number one is A. And so that's kind of a complicated question, but it's one that gets thought about a lot is in the teacher brain, especially for the ones who are remote ready. Now, what's really great too is that every teacher, as the video just mentioned too, every teacher is getting trained in remote classwork so that they can do better about making certain that the advantages that you're talking about that might impact grades and grade point averages and class ranks and things like that we try to keep the playing field level, but that we also think about ways to authentically assess students, whether they're in person or online. So like one of the things that, genuinely, just from my personal experience, one of the things that I'm looking at as I transition some of the work that we did in person to the work that we did online is how those traditional assessments of those quick questions that you might ask a student in class to just check their knowledge and check to see whether or not the information in a lecture or some other type of thing has gotten through. How do I do those spot checks online? And so I don't know that I have the exact right answer yet, Lisa, but I'm going to be working on that and looking for that to make sure that my students don't get left behind in a situation too. We had another question. It's kind of the flip-flop of this, but essentially the other side of the coin about what about kids who are, doing remote learning, however, they're not certain about a concept. Is there a way for them to contact teachers? And so that's where we want to reiterate to people that behind all of the Canvases and Google Classrooms and Twitter accounts and even this live stream right now is a living, breathing educator who wants the best for your child. We want to make sure that they learn the most that they can, that they feel comfortable being with us in the building. We're going to continue to deal with social emotional learning while we're doing all of this other stuff. The pandemic situation is just one more thing that we're adding on top of the mountains of stuff that teachers work with students on. So the first 3 days, as Ms. Summerholder mentioned way earlier in our interview, are going to be designed to help make those relationships with the students, and that includes making relationships online too. It's probably going to look, fairly similar. We're going to have those questionnaires online or in paper about, who are you? What do you like? What do you enjoy? What are you excited about? what do you like about school? What don't you like about school? Those kind of getting to know you activities are going to be tremendously important, especially in those first 3 days when we're trying to get to know everyone. We're trying to get everybody into sort of a rhythm and a sync, and to make sure that all of our procedures and policies are in place correctly to help our students really succeed. The motto of Timber Creek High School, TCHS, is truly committed to helping students, and that's something that we're taking to heart in all of the design of this year. So Lisa, I hope that you got to hear my answer, but we are thinking about it, we are talking about it, we are having those discussions in those different classes, the classes that we as teachers are taking about building classes for students. So I hope that helped. We've got just a couple of minutes left, just about 10 minutes left in tonight's stream. So if you've got questions or comments or other things that you wanted to send in, let me know. Send them in on Twitter. If you've got we're at TCHS Talon. If you're watching us on Twitch, send a Twitch message in there. If you're watching on YouTube, you probably can't comment back to us because of the way that our settings are, but send an email to editor@timbercreektalon.com with your questions, and we'll read them. We just got one from Lisa, and we tried to answer it right there. Earlier, Eileen asked about whether the school year instructional calendar will be updated soon. It will. It's not available yet. I think that the board has to vote on how the changes are going to be made. And so another question that I saw recently was whether or not, because the start date was pushed back, if the end date of school would be pushed back as well. And I don't have the answer to that question yet, but we will keep looking at that for you. Let's see. Oh, here's Meredith Baker with an Ask Talon question. Hi, Meredith. We've discussed attendance for remote learners, but how will absences for in-person be impacted? Are there extra COVID days? This is that's a great question. And I don't think that we discussed this. Absences for in-person. There aren't extra COVID days. However, if there is a quarantine situation in the family, there's a couple of different solutions. Students that go into quarantine because they think that they're exposed with a family member, or they do actually, while they're waiting on test results and things like that, may be moved to a remote program temporarily while we're working on it. And I want to see if I can pull up I want to see if I can pull up that piece of information, and so that I can read it to you more precisely. But the question about, will the students work with their current teachers to stay up to date online while waiting for COVID test results? Yes, probably. And this is a situation too, if the worst happened and we had to send groups of students home or shut down for a certain amount of time or anything like that. We are trying to train every single teacher on campus, in every campus on Keller ISD, to be remote ready, which means that if something happens, even to the teacher, that they can switch over to a remote situation, because that's a big question too. If a student's parents were exposed and the family needs to get together, all of those kind of things. I do not have, as far as I can see off the top of my bit. Oh, thank you, Kim. Hi to Bridget also. The question though about COVID tests and things like that, there's something. I'm gonna have to look. Add some more details. Thank you for the compliment, Kim. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you tuning in. And again, hi to Bridget. Hope she's well. Hope everybody's well. That's the key thing. We want to talk a little bit about special education, because that's always a concern of. You're welcome, Meredith. Special education is always a really big a really big part of our mission at Timber Creek to committed to helping every student. And so here's some information, some recently published information from Dr. Westfall and the head of the special education program that talks a little bit about how our special education needs are going to be met in this upcoming school year.
And joining us is Gina Koster, Executive Director of Special Education here in Keller ISD. So Gina, talk to us a little bit about this year coming up.
Would love to. Because the order in place has allowed for some exceptions, we are actually going to be able to open the doors to students with special needs or significant needs that really aren't going to do well through the remote learning process. And so we're really looking forward to the opportunity to be able to provide the services that our students with individual needs require so that they can continue to progress and continue to enjoy the interaction with their instruction. So I'm excited about looking forward to that. Another thing that we're looking at is the opportunity of students who will need to be required to continue staying in remote learning with their instructions. We're offering the opportunity for parents to walk in for their therapeutic treatments, to come in and get their therapy through in-person therapeutic services instead of remotely. So
yeah. So how does I know we did a little bit of this in the spring, but things like ARDS or even just diagnostician visits. How is that going to work?
Sure. So in the spring, we moved to virtual ARD meetings, and it actually went really well. We were successful in doing that, and I think that the flexibility for parents was a really positive thing. So we're going to move forward with virtual only ARD meetings and 504 meetings. In reference to diagnosticians and how that's going to work, we didn't do any face-to-face assessment or evaluation in the spring, and that is a change for us. So because the order is allowing us to have some in-person contact with students, we are going to move forward with assessment and evaluation with diagnosticians, speech pathologists, all of our therapists. Any evaluation that's needed, we are going to be able to continue to do that in person. So that's a big relief for us. We know that we are quite behind on assessment and evaluation. So the scheduling of appointments are going to be somewhat of a struggle, but we are looking forward to continuing with assessment.
So certainly in our safety protocols, face coverings are going to be a big deal.
Oh, yes.
How does that work with some of our kids, especially some of our kids who are in our special ed world that might not be able to manage a face covering?
Right. So we're going to be looking at face coverings and working through the instruction of how to appropriately wear face coverings for our students for both the instruction in person instruction and the remote, or in-person therapeutic center.
Sure.
One of the things that we're trying to do are social stories with our students, watching videos with them, practicing it, those sort of things to try to get them used to it. But we do know that there are some students with significant needs that really aren't going to be able to maintain or handle the anxiety of having a mask on and those sort of things. And so we do have some face shields that we will provide our students as well, and hoping that will help mitigate some of it. We have some additional safety protocol that we're working with our safety and security office to help us provide. So there will be significant changes to our typical protocol for safety and
so it sounds like very much a one-on-one or a case-by-case basis, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So where's a good source of information where our parents can make sure they're addressing questions or just gathering more information?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. So we do have a special education parent liaison Facebook page. Okay. There's a lot of connection between parents and our support staff there. And additionally, we do have on the Back to School website, on KISD Back to School, there's a tab for special education support, and there will be a FAQ there as well. So
great.
It should be pretty informative.
I appreciate everything your team is doing to support our special education students in Keller. Thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thank you.
And we're closing out Ask Talon Live tonight. It is almost 9 o'clock, so that means that we've been streaming for 2 hours and 13 minutes as of right now. Whew! And it's getting a little hot in my office, but that's okay. We want to answer some of your key questions before we go. One of those key questions is, even though this says July 29th, this was an updated story about everything we know about the school year that's available on the timbercreektalon.com that has a whole lot of information, but it's everything we know as of August 6, 2020, which you might see in the bottom right hand of your screen or on your phone or whatever. That's today, man. So this was updated at 9 a.m. this morning. It'll also probably be updated in the next 24 hours with a whole lot more information, including parking and senior spot stuff and all these kind of things. If you haven't visited our Timber Creek Talon website, I just want to brag on our students just a little bit. Timber Creek Talon is our student news information system. It is powered by students. It takes a village to get it all together, and so we have had students working even over here's June, here's May 22nd, here's May 14th, here's May 13th, July, all this kind of stuff. We've been publishing stuff throughout the summer, and we've been having kids go out and cover a whole bunch of stuff even through the summer. We've done as much as we possibly can to inform people here around the Timber Creek Falcon family, and hopefully constantly we're as up to date as possible. But still, we're going to continue to update as the days go forward. I've got thank you so much, everybody who's been watching, and for saying thank you. I appreciate you guys even watching that. I appreciate that quite a bit. Stacy, hi, Stacy. We miss you too. Do we know if the delayed start will affect the academic calendar? Those decisions would be made by the Board of Trustees about whether or not different calendar dates would shift or holiday dates and all that kind of stuff. And I am not aware of if, when, why, how any of those things will be done. That is far above my pay grade. As of right now, but you can always check out the board's agenda on the official Keller ISD website. They're very good and very transparent about what's on the agenda, and you can read the stuff that they're going to read and see the stuff that they're going to see, and that's good stuff. And also, the board meetings are live streamed, and so that's good too. Everybody, you're so welcome for all of the information. Heather, you're welcome. Josh, Eileen, Stacy, Jen, all of these people who are saying thank you. I appreciate it, but really, we just want to help make sure that people are as informed as possible and get their questions answered, because we are listening to you. Let's check over here. April asked, how does half days look like on a block schedule? Technically, they're not half days. They are early release dates. So that's going to be really technical about that. Also, we'll have some really key details about what that looks like in just a few weeks. But traditionally, early release days are scheduled as A or B days. So you would go to your A or B day classes. I am not certain if the plan for the first 3 days of school this year will include going to your first and fifth period, but they'll figure that out. On a traditional schedule, by the way, if you haven't done the block scheduling stuff before, which many of, now that I think about it, I needed to explain block scheduling. If you haven't done block scheduling before, there are A and B days. You would go to your first and fifth period on your schedule each and every day. So you start in first period, you end in fifth period, and those are 45-minute classes, or 50-minute classes? I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been in the building. But then you have your second, third, and fourth period, which are either A day or B day. Second period is 96 minutes, but third period and fourth period is 90 minutes. And then third period is kind of adjusted dependent on your lunch schedules. And it's really complex to even talk about during a normal school year when we have 4 lunches. So I'm going to wait to probably do that on another Ask Talon Live. We'll definitely do more of these. Feel free to continue to send in questions, even if you are watching this after the fact. If you're watching this on a replay, send in those questions. We'll answer them in the future somehow. If I didn't get to your question tonight, I am sorry. But we did as much as we could do today. So have a great rest of your day. Stay safe. Wear your mask. And we will talk to you guys next week for sure, but have updates for you all the time on timbercreektalent.com. Download the app, watch TCTV. We're going to have a lot of cool stuff coming out pretty soon, even before school starts. So excited to see you. Thanks for tuning in.